Hi, this is Mrs. Lemoyne again, and I'm going to be teaching you today Illustrative Math, Grade 5, Unit 1, Lesson 5, Side Length of Rectangular Prisms. So we've been working with rectangular prisms for a couple of days now. We're going to describe the side lengths of a prism and find the volume. So we're going to start off with a notice and wonder warm-up. What do you notice? What do you wonder? What do you notice? What do you wonder? Think about that for a minute. So I notice that all of the prisms have the same volume. I notice that this one is 2, where's my pen? There we go. 2, it's 1 wide, 2 for the length, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tall. So I know that my volume, if I count them, I'm going to have 12 cubes. And I notice that this one also has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, or a 6 by 1 by 2 tall, or the height is 2, so there's 12 cubes. And in the third one, the same thing. I could count each one, or I could say this is a 2 by 6, and the height is 1. So that's one thing that I noticed. And I noticed that the prisms all match a picture at the bottom. I can see that this might be a picture of the bottom of these 2 cubes. And this might be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a picture of the bottom of these 6 cubes. Get a better color ink out there. And this might be a picture of the bottom of both of these 6 cubes laying down. I also noticed that it's the same prism, but in different positions. So I think that this might be the area of the base. Remember, we talked about how the bottom area is the base. So the area of the base at the bottom, I figure I can calculate that by using this picture of the bottom of each one of the prisms. I wonder, is the prism supposed to be moving? I also wonder, do the prisms fit on top of the rectangles? Do they fit on top? Well, if it's a picture of the bottom, I think it is. They show the different faces of the rectangles. So this is a face, or a picture of the top or the bottom, a face or a picture of the top or bottom, and a face. So by doing this, I'm thinking that if it's a rectangular prism, we could use any side or any face as a base. Interesting. All right, that's a great think and wonder. So now we're going to move on to Activity 1. In Activity 1, all about that base, we're going to be connecting rectangles to prisms. It says match each prism with a rectangle that represents its base. Note, some prisms may have more than one rectangular base. So we just talked about how this could be a picture of the base of this or this or this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to label things on each prism. So I see that the length here is 3. The length here is 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the height, or I'd say the width, the height is 1, 2, 3, 4 also for that prism. The next prism, again, I notice that this is a 3. The width is, it's a big one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let me see if I counted that right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The width is 6. The length is 3. And the height, again, is 4. Then I noticed that this one again is 3, and this one has a width of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a height of 1, 2, 3, 4. So I noticed some similarities there. Get a different pen here. They each have a length of 3 and a height of 4. A length of 3, a height of 4. A length of 3, a height of 4. And the widths are changing. So when I look at these pictures, these rectangles at the bottom, I notice that this has a 3 and a 4. So I think that I could match Prism 1 with B, Prism 2 with B, and Prism 3 with B because every face looks like this. Every one of these fronts look like this one. Then I come over here and I notice this one has a length of 3 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this one has a 3 and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, I made it really easy on myself because I've already found a 5 here, so I think that one would go here. And I found a 6 here, so I think that one would go here. So this figure A matches with 3. Well, I'm not going to say that. It matches with 2, doesn't it? It matches with 2, so I could put an A here. Let's do that. Here's an A. It also matches with B. This one here matches with B. And this one here matches with B, but it also matches with C. And then it asks me to find the volume of each prism. Well, I know that the area of this base, which matches Prism 2, is going to be 3 times 6. So the area of this base is going to be 18. The area of this base is going to be 12. And the area of this base is going to be 15. So what are the different heights? Well, I have a height of 4 for each one. That's how many layers I have for each one. So I could do 18 times 4, or I could say 3 times 6 times 4. This one I could do 12 times 4, because remember they all have a height of 4. And this one I can do 15 times 4. Remember when we're doing these large multiplication problems, if we've forgotten how to do it, I could take 18 and break it up into 10 times 4 and 8 times 4, because 10 and 8 are 18 times 4. And that makes it much easier for myself. So this would be 40 plus 8 times 4 is 32, which is, when I add it all together, 74. So this one, let's see, that would be, this rectangular prism is 74 cubes. Then I could take the area of this base, and this one belongs to this one. I could do 12 times 4, which I should know my 12 times tables, and that would be 48. If I didn't remember that it was 48, I could do 12 times 4. 4 times 2 is 8, and 4 times 1 is 4. So this one is 48 cubes. 48 cubes here. Now this one is 15 times 4, which is this problem here. Again, I can break it up by saying 10 times 4 plus 5 times 4. So there's my 15 times 4. And I know 10 times 4 is 40, and 5 times 4 is 20, so that should be 60 cubes. So this one is 60 cubes. I know my work is a little messy here, but that's what my thought processes were. And here's how I figured out each one. So I showed all of my work. Awesome. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to, get this out of here, activity 2, growing prism. Activity 2, growing prism. So we're working with the same idea of the base of a prism, and we're going to talk about that as the area of the base. So here is the base of a prism, and we're going to have to find out what that area of it is. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, and label that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the area of the base is 10 times 4, or 40. So if I know the area of the base is 40, or if I know the length and the width, remember our formulas, length times width times height, or the area of the base times the height. So for this one, I know that the height is 1. So I could say 4 times 10 times 1, or we already figured out that this is 40, so I could do 40 times 1. So the area of the base times height is 40, and that's the height, because it tells me the height there. So this one has a volume of 40 cubes. Sorry, 4, 10, 40. So we have 4 times 10 times 1 for the height, or 40 times 1, so 40 cubes. There we go. Remember, we can write that down. Length times width times height, or the area of the base times the height. Now, this time they give us a height of 2. So I'm going to do it again. Say 4 length times width times the height is 2 this time. Or I've already figured out that this is 40. I could say 40 times 2. And we know that that is 80 cubes. Now we're going to do that process again. Length times width. And our height this time is 3. Or we could say 40 times 3. I know that 4 times 3 is 12. And with that 40, it's going to be 120 cubes. Again, length times width. My height this time is 10, or 40 times 10. And I can do 4 times 1 is 4, and 0 times 0, I'm going to get 2 zeros, so that's 400 cubes. Another way I could have done that is 4 times 100, because I know that 10 times 10 is 100. And the last one that I have to do, 4 length times width times height. My height now is 25. Or I could say 40 times 25. So that one looks a little bit hard. But I'm going to use that commutative property of multiplication to rewrite that as 25 times 4 times 10. Because I know that groups of 25 are like quarters. So if I have 4 quarters, how many cents do I have? I have 100 cents, right? So 25 times 4 is 100, times 10 is 1,000. So multiplying by 25s is pretty easy, because I know 2 quarters is 50 cents, so 2 times 25 is 50. 3 quarters would be 75, and 4 quarters is 100. Great job. So now I know that I can represent any kind of prism, find the volume of any kind of prism by multiplying the length and the width and the height, or the area of the base times the height. Okay, let's move on to the next problem. So here we have that filled in really nice and neatly, much nicer than I wrote it. So how does the volume of the prism change? Well, it changes with the height, doesn't it? So if the height is 1, it's just length times width. If the height is 2, it's length times width times 2. If the height is 3, so that doubled my 40 to 80. That tripled my 40 to 120. This is 10 times that 40 to 400. And this is 25 times that 40 to 1,000. How does the expression 3 times 40 represent the volume of the prism? Well, if the length and the width are 4 times 10, 4 times 10, then the height must be 3 to get 3 times 40 to represent that one. All right, what is the question? What is the question? The base of a rectangular prism has the height of 5 cubes. So they're not giving me a rectangular prism. They're showing me the area of the base. So this is a picture of the bottom. And from that picture, I can find the area of the base, which is another word for the bottom. So we need to talk about it as area of the base because we can get really confused when we start doing different kinds of formulas for triangles or parallelograms. So to find the area of the base, we're going to just find the area, or how many squares are right here. There are 3 on this side and 1, 2, 3, 4 on this side. So the area of the base would be 12, right? So if it were 12, that's my bottom layer, and each layer is going to have 12 in it. This tells me at the top that it has 5 layers because the height is 5. Remember, length times width times height. These are answers to questions about the prism. Read each answer and determine what the question it is answering about the prism. 3 is the answer. What is the question? Well, here's a 3. So I would say the question was, what is the length? The answer is 5. Well, that's not this, right? It must be this. So I could ask, what is the height? Three times 4 equals 12. The answer is 12. That is what this is, right? So that's the area of the base. What is the area of the base? 12 times 5 is 60. The answer is 60 cubes. Well, I remember that if I do length times width times the height, I would get 3 times 4 times 5. And I know that 3 times 4 is 12, so 60 must be the volume. So what is the volume? Three by 4 by 5 is the answer. Well, that kind of describes the entire prism, right? So I think I would write, what is the length, the width, and the height? Or I guess the better thing to write, what is, no, I think that might be right. What is an expression that represents this prism? I would accept either one of these answers. What is the length, the width, and the height? Or what is an expression? What is, Ms. Lemoyne, let's put an is in there, an expression that represents this prism. And that would be 3 by 4. So 3 by 4 by 5 cubes high. Absolutely fabulous. Okay, moving on. Oops. What does the expression 3 times 4 times 5 represent the prism? How does it represent the prism? Well, we can say that it represents length, width, and height. And height. And we can, from that, we could find the volume. Three times 4 times 5. I know that 4 times 5 is 20 times 3. So the volume for this prism would be 60 cubes. Nice job. So now we can talk about what information do we need to measure the volume of any rectangular prism. We need to know its measurements, right? We need to know the length, the width, and the height. What language can we add to our poster about the volume of a prism when we can't see the cubes? We can add area of the base or bottom times the height is volume. What is the connection between the number of layers and the height of the prism? That's the same. They're the same, right? The layers is the height. Layers equals height. Awesome. Finally clicking. Yes. All right, let's move on to our cool down. Here's the base of a rectangular prism. What is the volume if the prism has a height of 3? Again, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to label those sides. I have a length of 4 and a width, so this is the length, a width of 3. And so if it has a height of 3, it would be 4 times 3 times 3, and that would be 4 times 9, which would be 36 cubes. And I don't need to see the whole rectangular prism. If I can find the area of the base, which was 12, and multiply it times the height, so we could have done that too, which is 36. We could find the length, the width, and the height, and that also gives us the same answer. So we have options. We can find the area of the base, or we can find the length and the width. All right, that's it for today's lesson. Please like and subscribe so that we can grow our channel and I can continue to send you these great videos.